Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Introduce, my name is Hairil from class PBI 2021B. Here, I will review the material that has been delivered by Mr. Sabat, namely linguistic, linguists, language, and characteristic. The first is linguistic. What is linguistic? Linguistic in Indonesian is a field of linguistic studies that includes analysis of various linguistic elements such as form, meaning, and context. If etymologically, what linguistic actually comes from the word lingua, which means language in Latin. Apart from Latin, several other languages also refer to the same meaning. For example, in French, it is language, lingua, or language. Italian, lingua, Spanish, lingua, and English, language. Meanwhile, in English, the term linguistic in English is related to the word language, as in French, the term linguistic is related to language. Language, it can be case that the meaning of language and language is language. In Indonesian, linguistic is the name of the field of science, and the adjective is linguistic or linguistics. Can be opened etymologically. Linguistic means language or the field of science that studies language. Basically, every science, there is no science that has or underground. There are stages of development including the following. 1. Speculation stage. In this stage, talking about something and how to draw conclusion, which is done with a speculative attitude. 2. Observation and classification phase. At this stage, expert in the field of language only collect and classify all the facts of the language carefully without giving any theory or conclusion. 3. Theory formulation stage. At this stage, each of this descriptiveness seeks to understand the basic problems and ask questions related to these problems based on the empirical data collected. In general, linguistic studies do not only examine one type of language but also the characteristic of language as a whole and universal. Therefore, the study of linguistics itself has many specifications and subderivative that examine the elements of language in more depth. Then, what is meant by linguistics? Linguist or language expert is a term for people who are expert and explore scientific part of the language. Linguistic. Linguists themselves have several definitions of linguistics. Adrian Akmajain, Richard Demers, Anne Farmer, and Robert Harnis. What is linguistics then? Fundamentally, the field is concerned with the nature of language and linguistic communication. Then, what is linguistics? Basically, this field examines the nature of language and linguistic communication. John Lyons. Linguistics is a scientific study of language. Linguistics is the scientific study of language. King T. Nasser. Linguistics is concerned with human language as a universal and recognizable part of human behavior and of the human abilities. Linguists studies human language as a universal and conspicuous part of human behavior and abilities. According to the type of its own branch, linguistics is divided into two: macrolinguistics and microlinguistics. Macrolinguistics studies linguistics in general, where the study confers the effect of language on other scientific fields, various developments, and their implication for humans. Meanwhile, microlinguistics examines the nature of language naturally as a cultural product that includes various elements in a language. So, what is the meaning of language? Language is a tool or system that is used to convey information both orally in breathing and gesture. Is used a communication tool and maintains several components, including number 1, poem. Poem is the smallest part of language that is not meaningful. Number 2, morpheme. Morpheme is part of the language in the form of basic words and affixes. Number 3, word. Word is the smallest part of language that is meaningful and classy in words. Number 4, phrase. Phrase is a series of words that are meaningful but not in the S plus V pattern but M plus described 5 clause. Clause is a series of meaningful words with an S plus V pattern that has the potential to become a sentence or part of a sentence. Number 6. Sentence, which is series of words that have complete meaning, minimally in an S plus V pattern, and ends with a punctuation mark. The last one is characteristic. Characteristic linguistics in general give the essence of language with present its characteristic in addition to by presenting the definition. It can understood because the definition cannot give a correct variant, so that the fact is also clearly visible. The understanding of an entity becomes perfect through the characteristic of that entity. Some observable characteristics in a language, namely, number 1, oral, number 2, systematic, 3, arbitrary, 4, conventional, 5, unique and universal, 6, diverse, 7, developing, 8, productive, 9, phonema, social, and 10, human. Wardihan 2002. 8. Number 1, oral. Language is an oral sound. Its nature gives the fact the language experience is the most common in human. Speaking and listening, and attendance of sounds of language comes before the presence writing. In that regard, Bloom find in Wardihan 2002 status that language is essentially spoken or oral. Number 2, systemic and complex. Language has a systematic nature, which means that in that language there is rule of or rules. Language operation always related to the rules or rules of the applicable language. Therefore, it can also be said that the spoken language regular. Number 3, arbitrators and symbols. This arbitrary characteristic can be seen in the relationship between the symbol and the symbolizers, in the sense that there is no relationship directly between symbol and symbolism. Number 4, conventional, as mentioned in point 3, is on that the arbitrary nature of the socially, not individually. That right is the result of community agreement. For this reason, language can be called conventional as the nature of the agreement. Number 5 unique and universal. Every language has its own characteristic, which is not found in other languages. In other words, each language has discrete characteristics which give it identity. Self as a different language from what other. Number 6. Differs. The embodiment of language is not monolithic, a form that shows uniformity. In other words, languages are diverse. Various languages, depending on basis of classification by society users. There is a variety called sociolete. That's all I can convey, more or less. Sorry. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.